Congratulations, you have found the Lambcast, the official podcast of the large association of movie blogs, also known as the Lamb. The Lamb is the largest collective of online movie blogs and podcasts with 2,000 members and counting. Every week on the Lambcast, various members of the Lamb community get together to talk about our favorite subject, movies. So bookmark the Lamb and follow us on social media. Be sure to join us each week to hear a lively discussion of films and movie-related talk from our members. Join the flock at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Hello everyone and Merry Christmas. This is the Lambcast and I'm your host Richard Kirkham from Kirkham A Movie A Day. This week we have a movie of the month for December, and as anyone who knows me can attest, the subject of this week's episode is dear to my heart. But it may be a little surprising that it's being offered as a Christmas film. It's doubtful that anyone will confuse James Bond with Santa Claus, but with a ho 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 we're going to explore how an employee of Her Majesty's Secret Service brings Christmas to the world of international espionage. On Her Majesty's Secret Service was the overwhelming winner of the December Movie of the Month poll, suggested by James Wilson of Blogging by Cinemalite. On Her Majesty's Secret Service, then, is our Christmas film this year. Joining us on the show is Movie of the Month regular Matthew Simpson from the Awesome Friday podcast. Welcome, Matthew.
Hi, welcome to me, and happy to be here.
And we're glad to have you. It's always good when regulars are here, and we have a subject that people like talking about. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is a 1969 spy film. It's the sixth in the James Bond series produced by Eon Productions. It's based on the 1963 novel by Ian Fleming, and it's unique in the 007 pantheon of films for a number of reasons. It was the first to feature a new actor as Bond. The Bond girl was the second one from the Avengers TV show to star in a 007 film. It's the first film of its director, and the only one that he directed in the series. There are a plethora of things to talk about on this movie, and we're going to have the film's champion direct the discussions now. So let me turn it over to the other fellow, while I keep my martini cool. James Wilson, you're on.
Indubitably. So, On Her Majesty's Secret Service is, as Richard said, the sixth James Bond movie in that series, and it is for as long as I've been watching the James Bond series, this has always been regarded as the red-headed stepchild of the golden age of the James Bond movies from 1962 to 1971, most of which were dominated by Sean Connery. And but he quit after You Only Live Twice, which was the fifth, famously saying never again. And they had to find a new actor, and that they found that in an Australian model named George Lazenby, who lobbied extraordinarily hard for the part, but he had never acted before. One of the interesting things about On Her Majesty's Secret Service is it kept being promised in the very early prints of each James Bond movie, starting with Goldfinger. And then when, circumstances came up, after Goldfinger, Kevin McClory wanted to make a James Bond movie of Thunderball, which he had legally retained the rights to, and he made a deal with the official Eon Productions group, Albert Broccoli and Harry Saltzman, because he wanted Sean Connery, and Broccoli and Saltzman didn't want competition. So they worked together to make Thunderball, and at the end of Thunderball, it said James Bond will return in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and he did not. The reasons for that being mostly conditions for locations in the Alps. Evidently, the weather wasn't good enough, and they didn't have enough snow to make a convincing Alpine James Bond adventure. So it wasn't until 1969, and Connery had left with You Only Live Twice, that they got around to making On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And Connery left. Ostensibly, Connery basically wanted to be made a partner with Broccoli and Saltzman, and they, thinking that they had one partner too many already, and having already gone with a trifecta of producers on Thunderball, didn't want another partner. So they said, thanks, Sean, but it's not the actor who's betraying him, but James Bond that's important. And so they went through the rigorous process of hiring another James Bond. George Lazenby got it, and he essayed the role for On Her Majesty's Secret Service in 1969. It was the only time he did not want to sign a multi-deal contract. He had gotten advice that James Bond was out of touch with the times. When the top movie, one of the top movies of the year was Easy Rider, and so he basically said, "I'm going to do one and done," and that put a cloud over the producers as far as pursuing him again to do any further James Bond movies. There was some rankling of relationships with the producers and Lazenby on the set, and inevitably he ended up only doing the one. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is the first James Bond movie I saw in a theater, so it has a lot of special memories for me. I remember coming out of it and thinking, wow, that must have cost $1 million, because naively I didn't know that. Yes, well, the volcano set on the previous movie had cost $1 million. So I have very fond memories of it, but the reputation of the movie has gotten better over the years. But at the time, like I said, it was a redheaded stepchild. Whenever they had film festivals of James Bond movies, it was inevitably the one that was left out. When ABC first aired it, they butchered it. They played it over 2 nights with an extended flashback sequence and an actor narrating it, purporting to be James Bond, but wasn't in any way, shape, form, or voice him. And the reputation was, it's that other Bond, the one that wasn't successful. But it was successful. It did very well. It just didn't live up to the box office of the previous films, starting with Goldfinger. And a lot of us who love James Bond films really love this film. And we'll get into that. But one of the things Richard wanted me to explain was, why is this a Christmas movie to be considered for movie of the month? Well, it takes place over Christmas. There are extended scenes with Christmas trees. People are celebrating with Christmas lights. There's even a song called "Do You Know How Christmas Trees Are Grown," which is designed to be a particularly irritating child song, but that I have actually grown to like quite a bit over the years. And of all the James Bond movies, which are traditionally set in, sunny climes on the beach, this one has the Arctic feel, and also has an awful lot of angels on top of trees, and to the point where the dispensation of the world-threatening device that the main villain is putting out are done as Christmas presents. So it's a nice little cynical holiday movie, and I'd like to know what your guys' thoughts are on Her Majesty's Secret Service, since I've been prattling on. Matthew, what was your first experience with Her Majesty's Secret Service?
So I grew up watching James Bond on TV, and you're not wrong that this was often the one that was sort of left out. We had, I'm sure I've told this story on the show before, but like when I was a kid, we lived pretty rural and in Canada, so we had a 10-foot satellite dish, which is a thing that used to exist for the young who are listening. And so we got American TV through a gray market deal. So
interesting.
There was James Bond was on TBS like all the time. So my first, and this is honestly the reason why Roger Moore is my favorite James Bond, because he was the one that always do the marathons of. Yeah. But anyway, this one would be on every once in a while, and I never really saw it all the way through until I was so much later, until I was an adult in probably the early zeros. And you're right, the reputation of it was always that it was sort of like the other one, the not good one, the different one. But by the time I finally got to see it all the way through, sit down and actually watch it, I've always really liked it. I've always thought it was actually one of the stronger entries in the franchise. And I've never really understood why it was regarded. I mean, I have thoughts about it now, but when I first saw it all the way through, I never really understood why it was regarded as being so other compared to the other ones. But when it was such a strong entry, personally.
Now, when you were in Canada watching it, I remember going to a friend's house because they had access to a Canadian TV station, and they showed it all the way through, pristine. It was fine. They didn't even cut the more salacious parts of this movie. In American TV, on the ABC TV network, they really butchered it and made it also almost incomprehensible. They were doing that with You Only Live Twice and a couple of the other ones. After the first running, they left off the pre-title sequence of Goldfinger. Part of that was due to time, and part of it was, some of the material was a little too much for TV, too mature.
So on Canadian TV, and I was definitely maybe a little young to remember this clearly, but I definitely remember on Canadian TV just a lot of commercials. Not anything being cut. And that was always the same with TBS as well. I don't remember them ever cutting anything out of any of the films, but I do remember there being at least as many minutes of commercials as there were movie, is what it always felt like.
Yes. And the commercials seemed to get longer. Commercial breaks got longer and longer as the movie went on.
Yeah.
It's always frustrating. Richard?
Well,
you're a James Bond diehard. So, what was your first memory of Her Majesty's Secret Service?
All right. Well, I had seen James Bond movies in theaters, but they were all on re-release when I saw them. I was too young to see them when they first came out. But, of course, in those days, they had a habit of re-releasing films, and typically they did it on a double bill. So I know I saw a double bill of Thunderball and From Russia with Love, and another one of Goldfinger and Dr. No. And I had never seen You Only Live Twice until much later. That might have been the last of the first ones that I'd seen. This was the first new Bond film that I saw in a theater. My brother took me in 1969 to see it at Christmas time. I saw it at the Alhambra Cinema in the town that we had just moved to, and it was a great experience. And I loved the movie from the beginning. First of all, of course, it was a James Bond movie. Now, did I miss Sean Connery? Of course I miss Sean Connery, but that didn't matter to me, and the producers were right. It's the character that matters the most. Sean Connery elevates the films that he is in. I would never disparage or diminish any of his contributions to what he created, but it's the character that fascinates people and keeps us coming back. And this was a great opportunity for somebody else to take over and show that the character does matter. And the fact that the film succeeds, despite the fact that Lazenby is a little stiff in the film, I don't find him boring. And I think he looks good in the part. But let's face it, he's a first-time actor. He hadn't done anything before. He lied his way into this part. He manipulated. he maneuvered himself into getting the role by telling tall tales of foreign language films that he had made that nobody could ever locate, and they just didn't exist because he had never made any films before. And so the fact that he got cast is just a miraculous in the first place. I think he looks the James Bond part, and as soon as that opening bit happens, where he does where he looks up at the camera, breaks the fourth wall for that.
This never happened to the other fella.
I was willing to go along with it, and I think that they got the spirit of the idea correct at that point. It is, and at least it was, the longest James Bond film there was up until the Daniel Craig films. I think we started to get longer and longer. After Quantum of Solace, I think the last three that he did were all 2.5 hours, give or take.
Yes.
And this film is not quite that, but it's pretty close. And so it took some patience, and I understand why ABC would want to split it over 2 nights, because they spent a lot of money to air the film. It's a long movie. It doesn't fit into their 2-hour Sunday night time slot. So, we'll just run the second half on another night. And the re-editing thing, I did not remember any of that. I did not watch the television presentations of the Bond films until later. I think I did see Goldfinger at some point on television, and you're right, I do remember the opening title sequence being cut out of Goldfinger, and I went, wait, this is not right, what happened?
Yeah, it started with the song immediately.
Yeah, and I didn't care much for that, so I didn't watch most of the ABC versions of the films, even though I was a Bond fanatic. It wasn't, and of course, once home video came along and cable was happening, then it all changed, and it was easy for me to consume them in the form in which they were designed to be consumed.
Well, let's get the elephant out of the room first, and that is George Lazenby, because we'll have plenty of time to sing the praises of this movie, because there's a lot of things that are great about this movie. We touched on it briefly, but let's go into depth about George Lazenby and your impression of him in the movie and how it's changed over the years. Matthew, go ahead.
So my impression of him actually hasn't really changed over the years. I've always thought that he was fine. I didn't know he was a first-time actor until much, much later. So he always felt a little bit stiff and a little bit different, but I always thought that was fairly intentional, just because they're clearly going for not just a different actor, but also, don't just do a Sean Connery impression with the performance.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
And I thought that, I didn't when I was a kid because I didn't know, but as an adult, I would say he actually looks more like the way James Bond is described in the books than Sean Connery does. He looks more like James Bond than Sean Connery does. And yeah, that's it for Lazenby. I've always just thought he was fine. I thought that it's kind of unfair to say he's the weakest part of his own movie, but he kind of is.
Yeah.
But I think he has good He's a little stiff, but I think he has good chemistry with the ladies. And I think he has good chemistry with Telly Savalas. And I think that's all that really matters. And I think that when it comes to the action sequences, which are very well edited and choreographed, and he acquits himself well. So in the parts where he's a little stiff and a little bit maybe not so great, I think that they're balanced out by the stuff that he does well at, that he's good at. So I've always thought that it was a sort of fine overall performance.
How about you, Richard?
Yeah, I think the reputation of him being a little stiff is a combination of things. First of all, he's growing into the role, and the opening sections of the film where he's at the MI6 headquarters, where he's interacting with Moneypenny and M. He actually goes to M's house and does his usual pompous know-it-all kind of thing. I think those are the scenes where he comes off the least effectively. When the action sequences start, I noticed a little bit more than I had in previous Bond films, the editing by both Peter Hunt and John Glenn, who were responsible for the editing on these films. I noticed a little bit more how they sped up some of the sequences and cut them together a little bit more, so it looked like maybe they're trying to enhance his physicality through the editing process, and I think that's another thing that added a little bit to the reputation of him being stiff. However, once he got to the sequences that Matthew just talked about, where he's interacting with Telly Savalas as Blofeld, interacting with all the girls at Piz Gloria, and gets into the action sequences, I think he's great. There's a terrific sequence with Diana Rigg where they're after they have escaped in the car and they're hiding out in a barn. It's the love sequence basically, and I think he's very good in that sequence. I think Connery might have been a little more awkward in that part because he was so what's the
Connery.
Term? He's so suave and much more sophisticated than the situation calls for, and this situation called for something that was a little bit more honest and personal, and I thought that Lazenby carried that off pretty well. So like I said, I think he grew as the film was being presented to me. Now, I know they don't shoot in sequence, so I couldn't explain whether or not that was because he became more accomplished or whether it was edited better. Or what I really think happens is he's working with other actors who are helping reflect back to him the things that he needs. When he's got the scenes with Telly Savalas and the scenes with Diana Rigg, that's when he's the best in the movie.
And I'll say one more. There's the sequence after they get off Piz Gloria and Tracy has been this is an old movie, folks, so spoiler walls are going to be down.
Yes.
When Tracy is captured by Blofeld's Spectre team and taken to Piz Gloria, the scene where he confronts M about I believe the line is, "This service owes her a debt." He's really strong in. He's great in that, and he's great in the scene where he's talking about the plot with Blofeld, and Blofeld reveals that yes, well, I know you're James Bond, and I've known you've been James Bond for a while, I'm such a typical Bond villain that I'm going to tell you what my entire plot is because you're never going to get off this mountain. He's really good in that, just because he conveys, Blofeld, you're kind of a jerk. and you can talk all you want, but you're not that good. And the scene in the barn with Diana Rigg is unusual, just because he actually acts like he's exhausted, absolutely knackered. I mean, he just skied off a mountain. He jumped on a cable car. He's been running around and, being frightened to death by Diana Rigg's terrible driving. And he's just exhausted, more vulnerable than we've ever seen. I don't think Connery would make that choice. I think Connery would have been terrific in this role, just because he has much more range than James Bond, and he displayed that in The Hill. He displayed that in how he reacted to the deaths of Jill and Tilly and Goldfinger. Certainly later in the Russia House. I think he would have been terrific in this role. And there's one key scene where I know he would have been an improvement, and I don't think we can argue that, and that is the scene with Draco, where he's basically kidnapped and taken to Tracy's father's domicile, headquarters. Her father is the head of the Union Course, which is a European mafia. And Gabriel Fazzetti plays, a dubbed Gabriel Fazzetti plays Draco, and he's talking to him about, the girl's damaged goods and you could do her a lot of good. I think Connery would have played that much more conspiratorially and with a little bit more of a twinkle in the eye than Lazenby did. Lazenby basically sits down and reads his lines and is incredibly dull in that scene. I also agree with you guys that, yeah, he's in good shape. He's good in the action scenes. But Peter Hunt, the way he shot it, basically it was one punch per shot. And anybody could look good, in those scenes, just because Hunt shot them so dramatically, and Glenn edited them so brutally. I think Lazenby was a lost opportunity, and I'm glad he only did the one film. I don't think he would have been as good as Connery was in Diamonds Are Forever. I think
I'm going to jump in and say almost anybody would have been better than Connery was in Diamonds Are Forever. He was so bored in that movie and so over being James Bond, and I had to be bribed to get back into the film. It was so obvious that he didn't want to be there.
I
I'm
disagree.
going to echo that just by saying that, like, in my opinion, I've never understood why people would say this might be the worst James Bond film when Diamonds Are Forever exists.
Sitting right there.
Yeah.
I disagree. I like Diamonds Are Forever. They were going with a different tone. The times were changing as far as movies were going, and I find Diamonds Are Forever, with the exception of the two leading ladies, is a romp, and I think Connery is terrific in it. He's not as good as he is in Goldfinger, but frankly, in the James Bond movies, if he's given something to do, he'll do it. But if he's just there as action man, the performance is going to be less. And I think he pulls off a lot of the, just the way he charmingly throws off lines is a welcome relief after Lazenby. I mean, for me, it's funny because when I saw OHM, On Her Majesty's Secret Service later, it was usually on a double bill with Diamonds Are Forever. And it was like, well, we have to get through On Her Majesty's to get to Diamonds. I'm still a big fan of Diamonds, and a large part of that is just because Connery's a lot of fun in that role. But that's me.
Well, the world is full of people who have different opinions about various films. Like you said, the reputation of On Her Majesty's Secret Service was very low for a number of years. But nowadays, I think if you ask most people who are fans of the Bond films, George Lazenby aside, On Her Majesty's Secret Service tends to be ranked very highly by people who are Bond fans because of the plot and because of the way the movie was shot.
Definitely in the top 5. I mean, it's a terrific movie. It's just that there's this black hole in the center of it that, is carried along. And let's talk about some of the things that make it so great. We'll just do a round robin of what impresses you about On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And I keep asking Matthew first. How about Richard first?
Okay. Well, I'm happy to do this. I went back looking at some of the posts that I've written over the years, and I did a series in anticipation of Skyfall before the movie opened of all of the previous films. My 007 things I liked about every movie. And so I have a list of things that I liked about On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So I'm going to quickly go through that list, and I hope I don't take up too much time, and you guys will get a chance to pop in as well.
We'll make notes.
I like the new Blofeld. I think Telly Savalas worked well. I think he's a lot more vigorous and engaged than Donald Pleasance. I like the Donald Pleasance look in You Only Live Twice, but I think that because of the way the story is written and because of the way Blofeld's supposed to be an active participant in the action that's taking place, that Savalas was a good add at that point. Like I said, I love that sequence at the beginning, at the end of the title sequence, or right before the title sequence. This never happened to the other fellow. That gave me a laugh that lasted for the whole movie and let me just accept what was going on. When I first started watching these movies, I was alarmed and pissed that there wasn't a title song for On Her Majesty's Secret Service, but I understand why they didn't do one, and the more I listen to the opening music and that plays over the titles and the theme that's going on there, that kicks ass. That gets better and better every time I see it. And so I think this is one of John Barry's best scores
definitely for
the films. They cut down a lot on the technology stuff in this. It's so ancient history. People will look at this today and see James Bond needs something that's going to help him crack the safe and make some photocopies. And so they basically have to arrange, this complicated sequence to move this photocopying safe cracking machine into the office so he can work with it. Nowadays people have that kind of equipment on their phone without even thinking hard about it. But then it was like the size of a travel trunk, and you got to get in. And it's odd and awkward, but the sequence is really nice, building suspense, even though it's not the end of the world. We're not having a countdown of a bomb or anything like that. But the guy whose office it is, the solicitor whose office it is, he's coming back from lunch. Is Bond going to be discovered? I think they do a nice job with that, creating a little bit of suspense over that silly little sequence there.
Yeah.
The highlight of the film, the best thing in the film, of course, is the Bond girl. Diana Rigg is the ultimate Bond girl. Nothing disparaging about her appearance. I've always had the hots for Daniela Bianchi, from Russia with Love, but Diana Rigg is just fantastic, and she's a real actress. I've been rewatching Game of Thrones this last couple of weeks, and her character shows up, and suddenly everybody else in the ensemble on Game of Thrones looks like an amateur. I couldn't believe how, and she doesn't have that many scenes, but she is just so good in those scenes, and she's great in this movie. And as a character, of course, the Bond girl is not the damsel in distress here. She saves Bond. You know, and she's very effective, and she gets into a fight at the end of the film, at the climax of the film, and she's pretty damn competent in that situation. It has my favorite gruesome death in a James Bond film, where the one of the Spectre skiers following them, chasing them down the hill, ends up in front of the snowplow. And well before we got Fargo, we got this guy being taken care of by the snowplow. And the pink snow comes up, and it just is like, oh my gosh, does that look gruesome? And that's a good cinematic scene. And then there's just the one little clip that I think kind of indicates that this is a Bond movie, when Lazenby jumps out of the helicopter and slides on his stomach with the machine gun towards his opponents, shooting the machine gun as he's sliding. I'm going, that is a cinematic James Bond moment. So those are the things that I most liked in On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
With the James Bond theme going on in the background.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Matthew?
I don't really know what to add, actually.
I'm sorry. I stepped all over everything.
No.
So, I mean, yeah, Diana Rigg is just the best Bond girl that ever was. Not just because she's very attractive, which she is, but as Richard was talking about, she's also like a real human character with real agency for the first and debatably until Daniel Craig's run. One of the only ones that just had actual agency as a character. I think the score is also incredible. I think, the James Bond theme from the first few movies is good, and then the score from this one I think is probably even more influential, not only on the series, but on like cinema as a whole. One of my favorite Propellerheads songs from my favorite album of all time is a cover of the On Her Majesty's Secret Service theme.
from Shaken Not Stirred.
Yeah.
David Arnold's compilation.
Yeah. And on the album Decks and Drums and Rock and Roll, which is a great drum and bass album. But anyway, I think it's really well shot. I think it's really well edited. I think it's generally really well solidly put together. And I also like, and I don't know if I've always thought this is one of the reasons why the film was kind of rejected at its time, is that I really like that it's kind of a huge bummer. I really like that they went for a very different style and tone. I like that James Bond is a real human being with real weaknesses, and I like that he wins but then loses. I like that I think that George Lazenby's best moment in the film is probably the very end, when he's cradling his now dead wife's in his arms, talking like in full denial that she's even been shot for a moment there.
Yeah.
I like that the film has real consequences for the character, and it's interesting to me how this film was sort of rejected in its time, when like if you dropped this film in the middle of Daniel Craig's run, I think we'd all talk about it as a classic, as one of the best in the series.
Yeah.
But because it was such a stylistic and tonal change from Sean Connery's run, I think that's probably why it was rejected. I think it's a ballsy, forward-looking film in a way that a lot of the other ones aren't. And I've always appreciated it for that.
These are all great points. The thing I love about it is Peter Hunt's direction, and more so his editorial control of it. This movie just scampers. It moves like crazy, and even sequences that might, in a description of the script would seem ridiculous, like the giant fax machine in Gumboldt's office. Even that is edited just so so that it gets the maximum amount of tension in it. And when you add John Barry's score, which is another one of his little things that starts really simply, with just a dun 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 dun, and then he starts adding instruments that get more and more strident. It turns into this knuckle fighter scene, and it's all about stealing documents from a lawyer's office. It's wonderful. Hunt had quit the series. He had been the editor since Dr. No, and I always loved Hunt's editing in these movies because he was brutal. He was just brutal. It's like he had no respect for the film qualities that were shot at all. He would ramp up sequences that he thought were too slow, usually under the direction of Terrence Young, but he'd also take out like a frame of a sequence just to accentuate a punch or a hit or something. That happens a couple of times in this movie, but he's an editor's director. He knows exactly what he needs and only what he needs to make something just jump. And his direction and his when you listen to his commentaries about it, he wanted to emphasize in the art direction the color purple, and that there were flowers everywhere to reflect the wedding aspect of it. And it looks different than any other Bond. A lot of it's because Ken Adams' exorbitant sets aren't in it, so there's a lot less chrome. But it just looks like $1 million. And Piz Gloria is one of the most wonderful villain headquarters in the series. I especially like the fact that you've got the living quarters, and everything up front is nice and pristine and alpine and lovely, with a revolving restaurant with a 360-degree view of the Alps. But you go downstairs and you're going into the mountain, and it's a little like hell. I just love that. John Barry's score is, he said that he was very disparaging about Lazenby. He said that he went over the top in On Her Majesty's Secret Service because he felt he had to, because Lazenby couldn't act his way out of a wet paper sack, in his words. And it really shows. It's a really strong score. It's a joy to listen to every time I listen to it. It's amazing. Great music. But then, he usually did great music for the James Bond series in the 60s. In the 70s, he tagged down a bit and was basically reacting to changes of the times. But the brashness and the exuberance of what he called his $1 million Mickey Mouse music was really, really evident in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And I like the fact that there's no title song, because frankly, how are you going to put the words On Her Majesty's Secret Service in something? Although there's a little bit of that where they could have put it in. On Her Majesty's Secret Service. It would have been dumb, but that's good. Louis Armstrong's song is, completely atypical of a James Bond song, but Barry said that he wanted to write something evergreen that would, last forever. And yeah, it wasn't a big hit on the charts at the time, but 2 decades later, it hit the top of the charts for being part of a Guinness commercial. It really has stood the test of time, and even to the point where the Bond producers brought it back for No Time to Die. It's just got a forever quality to it that is sad and mournful and kind of celebratory, but it's a beautiful song. I don't know if it was Louis Armstrong's last recording. I see differing accounts on that, but it's just terrific. But then, Louis Armstrong is eternal, and we're only just now, when he's not around, realizing just what a revolutionary artist he was, because he keeps coming back, and we keep going, oh, Louis Armstrong. We celebrate what he was. I like the bummer ending. I'm a big fan of the James Bond books. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is one of Fleming's strongest books. Fleming was a lot more brutal to James Bond than the folks who made the movies have been. And I like it when Bond gets roughed up and suffers. It's just the sadist in me. He has it too good. I'd like to see him suffer a little bit. And Diana Rigg is wonderful in this film. She's just everything you could possibly want her to be. And you kind of believe that the way she embodies the character, that this person who is suicidal at the beginning of the movie can turn into such a strong person at the, through the course of the film. She's great. And also Telly Savalas is terrific as Blofeld. He's just so... Basically, he's not the little weasel that Donald Pleasance is. He is effusive. He thinks of himself as living the life of James Bond. And, he crows and he quotes poetry, and he's just so full of himself that you really want to see him taken down, even though you enjoy watching him on the screen. And he has a good relationship with the cat. So... where Donald Pleasance didn't. There's so much more we could talk about.
I'll just jump in real quick and say that another thing I really appreciate about this film, I was thinking about while you were speaking, was I think it's really the one that establishes the sort of alpine layer and skiing as
yes,
very, very James Bond things. It's the first one where they became integral. From that point on, like Roger Moore was on skis a bunch of times. Timothy Dalton's on skis once. Brosnan's on skis a couple times. It really establishes there's because of this film, there's 2 great locations for James Bond. One of which is the Caribbean, and the other one is the Alps.
Yeah, he should be on skis, or he should be scuba diving.
Yeah, basically.
Or underwater.
That's it. Yeah, the ski sequences in this are phenomenal, and they're filmed in such a amazing way. I mean, when you're watching them chase him and you're seeing from the point of view of the guy being chased, somebody is filming as they're skiing backwards. You're going, how do you do that? And the technical crews who accomplished this, the second unit, is just phenomenal on this. And then the aerial shots are amazing. And when you read that the cameraman's hanging from the helicopter at one point, on a harness so they can get a 360 shot of everything that's going on. You say, that's somebody who is committed to their craft. And But when you see the sequences, you say, I know why they're committed to their craft, because it's going to look like this, and it looks great.
The cameraman was Johnny Jordan, and he had done the same thing on You Only Live Twice, basically being suspended from a helicopter while they were shooting all of the helicopter sequence over the volcanoes in Japan, and at one point got his leg cut off by one of the propellers of one of the helicopters. They'd been caught in an updraft, and he had the presence of mind to film his foot, because he figured, if they were going to save it, this might be good documentation. But I read an interview with him where they said, aren't you scared when you're hanging from that suspension from the helicopter? And he says, no, I feel like God. It's incredible work. Some of those scenes of, just askance angles of looking at a line of skiers along the ridge of a mountain. That's Johnny Jordan, and it's just beautiful stuff that he did. It's both exciting and gorgeous. You want to ski, despite any sort of physical limitations. They're just beautiful scenes, and I think this was the skiing movie of the little spate of movies when it became a popular sport in the late 60s. I can't remember the name of the Olympic skier who popularized, who made it such a big deal. He made a movie, and Jean-Claude Keely, and he starred in a movie, and the skiing scenes weren't nearly as exciting as they were in this movie.
I think it was Snow Job.
Yeah, Snow Job.
Yeah, and the reason I saw that movie was because I'd seen on Her Majesty's Secret Service, and I liked the skiing scene so well that I thought, well, this will be the same thing, and it wasn't.
And it wasn't. Anything else we want to talk about? It just seems to me that there's so much we could. Anybody bothered by the fight on the beach? I remember showing this for people at Microsoft, and they were going, "Holy cats! This is like crazy." And I was thinking, God, I just think this is marvelous. This is an out there fight that's just really rankles. Anybody have any problems with that? Anybody have any?
Well, I like the fact that they did end up fighting in the surf, not just on the beach itself. I think it would have been a little bit duller had they not ended up having some of those scenes where when you're filming it and the water is flying up off of the combatants in that situation. That makes it look so much better.
Yeah, the flying water coming up with their fists.
And did people had a problem with this? I've never.
What was their problem with it? The folks you showed it to.
They thought that it was continuity absent, that shots didn't match, and that it was a little too abrupt. And I love that about it. It's just a crazy edited scene, and John Barry's music for that is this whooping, crazy fight music that's just lovely, but it's really out there. And they use it on the bobsled run at the end as well. I love this movie. I just think it's wonderful. Whatever people, I've always felt bad that among the wisdom of the tribe, it wasn't that good a movie, but it's just terrific. It's wonderful, and it's not just because I saw it when I was 14 years old. It's stood up over time, and everything is just orchestrated and brought together extraordinarily well.
Well, I think, like all things that mature appropriately, our assessment of On Her Majesty's Secret Service has produced a finer vintage than it would have been if we'd taken it out of the bottle at the time.
Quality lasts.
Yeah.
And I think the reason it has a bad reputation is because it didn't have Sean Connery in it. But if people had seen it, they would have been amazed.
Well, I think it's what I'm amazed at is that I think you made a very good argument that it is a Christmas film. I do like the idea that the plot is driven by the distribution of biochemical warfare through Christmas gifts,
which is sick.
And I did like the purple wrapping paper and the purple velour walls in Draco's office, and
yes.
Just that comes up quite a bit. The flower motif is okay. I think that's one of those things that Hunt did that was he's trying to make it look a particular way, and it succeeded. It wasn't necessarily my perception of the way things ought to go, but the casino and the office and the laboratory in Peace Gloria, all that stuff, I liked all of that, and the secondary characters are nice as well. So I think you're right. We could keep talking about this for another 5 hours, but we don't really want to do that. We want people to listen to the show instead of scroll by and say, "Oh man, that's 5 hours. I don't want to do that." So I think we'll wrap it up here, unless you have something else that you wanted to talk about.
Yes. Do you know how Christmas trees are grown? That song I always skipped on the soundtrack, but a few years ago, I really listened to it, and I thought, oh my God, this is brilliant. Number one, it's irritating in the same way the children's song in The Birds is irritating and provides tension. And of course, they bring it out full throat when Bond is being pursued by Irma Bunt and her goons in the
at the ice rink.
At the ice rink. And it's shot like a nightmare. But the other thing is, it's a little parody song, because if you listen to it and listen to Nina Van Plant sing it, she's doing a dead-on impersonation of Julie Andrews, and it's like John Barry was doing a parody of The Sound of Music. And I just thought, oh God, the man was a genius. Even something I initially didn't like has this aspect to it that is absolutely brilliant.
Well, I'll admit that I've ignored the song for 50 plus years because I knew it was background source music, but I didn't think too hard about it. I didn't pay attention to it. I've actually listened to the full version of it for the first time for this podcast. And
really?
Yeah. And I say, okay, it's kind of a weird little thing. It's got some charm to it, but I could see how it would get in your head like, it's a small world after all. It would just be repetitive and hook-laden
and irritating,
and ultimately, a little difficult. But the tune itself, I think, is great. The melody is nice.
It gets under your skin, which is what I think it was designed to do.
All right, then. We're going to finish our discussion here of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. We're going to hear from a fellow Lamb Podcasting Network show, and then we're going to come back for our James Has a Game for us, and then our exit question of the week.
In a world where podcast podcasts already seem to address every imaginable subject, one man broke new ground with a seemingly random obsession about exploding helicopters in movies. He was a podcaster on the edge, a maverick broadcaster who played by his own rules. Now, he has a last chance to talk about the strange way helicopters explode in film. Exploding Helicopter, available on iTunes and Podomatic now. Think you know about chopper fireballs? Think again.
We're back, and James, as the champion of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, created a game for us to finish off the show with, along with the exit questions. So, James, I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell us about the game and how we play.
Bad help is hard to find these days, and it's I'll give you the name of a henchman, and you tell me the movie that's from. This game will be a call-out game.
So names is our buzzers?
Names are our buzzers. So, in other words, if I say Odd Job, you'd say...
Richard. Goldfinger. But I would wait for you to call on me.
And I would say Jaws, and you'd say...
I'd say both of them, you know. I'd say The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker.
Yes. Perfect.
I am going to get destroyed at this game, I think. But that's fine.
Some of these will be a little obscure. I have 44 of them.
All right, well, we'll do them as quickly as we can, and if we get to a point where, you know, anybody, and by the way, it might very well not be me, scores 24 or more points more than the other person, we can stop.
Sounds good. All righty. Let's start.
All right.
Grunter.
Richard. There's so many of them. That sounds like it could be. I think it's on Her Majesty's Secret Service. I think there's a Grunter character.
Yes. Next. Zhao.
Richard. That's Die Another Day.
Yes. Next. Hans.
Richard.
Go ahead.
Gosh, there are two of them that it could be. I think I'm going to be. Oh, son of a gun! I'm going to hate myself because I think I have this wrong now. All of a sudden, For Your Eyes Only.
Nope. If I were to say it differently, Matthew.
Is he the one that gets fed to piranhas in You Only Live Twice?
Correct.
There you go.
Necros.
Richard.
That's
The Living Daylights.
Correct. Grishka.
Oh, damn, that's another one. Richard.
Matthew?
Go ahead, Matthew.
Grishka's in Octopussy, right?
Correct. See, you're doing great.
There you go.
Just ask more Roger Moore ones. That'll help you.
There you go. Primo. If I were to say what his nickname is, would it help?
Maybe.
Probably.
Cyclops.
Oh,
Matthew? No Time to Die?
Correct. Quiche.
I got nothing.
Richard, I'm guessing from Rush with Love.
Goldfinger.
All right.
Shandor.
Oh, I know that one. Why is that? Damn it. Richard. That's Moonraker. Apparently not.
Matthew, want to give it a try?
This name sounds so familiar, but I can't place it.
It's because he was overshadowed by another henchman.
That's not really
Richard.
narrowing it down.
Richard. I know. It's Spy Who Loved Me.
Yes.
He's the one who gets flipped off of the roof by the flick of the tie. Damn it.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Stamper.
Richard.
Matthew.
Okay, Richard.
That's Tomorrow Never Dies.
Correct. Skiara.
Matthew.
Matthew.
Spectre.
Correct. Chang.
Richard.
Richard.
Let's try Moonraker this time.
Krilenkiu.
Richard.
Yes.
From Russia with Love.
Correct. Vargas.
Richard.
Yes.
That's Thunderball.
Yes.
Vargas doesn't make love.
No. What do you do to Vargas? You get the point.
Yes.
Dario.
Matthew.
Matthew.
Dario is License to Kill.
Yes. Star-making role.
Is that Benicio del
Hink.
Toro?
It is.
Okay.
Hinks.
Matthew.
Matthew.
That's also Spectre.
Yes.
Yes.
Elvis.
I got no clue.
Can we have a hint?
Yes, it's supposedly based on a famous film director who wanted to make his own version of Casino Royale.
Okay, so
That's not the movie.
can we have a less obscure hint?
No, not with me. You can't. Yes, he falls down a flight of stairs and loses his toupee.
Oh, sorry for swearing.
That's all right.
At a party. That's all right. It's that kind of game.
Richard. I'm going to
Yeah.
try Never Say Never Again.
Yep. Nope. We are doing strict Eon.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm pretty sure I know which Bond it is, but I don't remember which film it is, which is very frustrating. So, Matthew.
Matthew?
I'm going to guess that it is Spectre.
Nope.
Okay,
But-
you should just give it away because we're dancing.
Quantum of Solace.
Ah,
Okay.
right, he's the tall, skinny one, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Okay. More complicated names now. Eric Kriegler.
Richard.
Yes.
That's For Your Eyes Only.
Yes. Mr. Kidd.
Richard.
Yes.
Diamonds Are Forever.
Correct. Alex Dimitrios.
Richard.
Yes.
That's The World Is Not Enough.
No.
No. Oh. Richard.
Yes.
I you know what? I may still have this wrong, but it's GoldenEye.
No.
Matthew.
There's a lot of Alexes,
Yes.
I think.
If it's
Yes.
not GoldenEye, then it's Casino Royale.
Correct. Helga Brandt.
Matthew.
Yes.
That is From Russia with Love.
No.
Isn't it? Oh,
No.
sure. That one.
That's Irma Bunt. No, not Irma Bunt. That's what's her name? Jesus. Helga Brandt. I know this one. Oh.
I do as well, but apparently not.
Sometimes
You need a
your
hint?
sometimes your
Yeah.
brain just goes blank.
Let's have a hint.
She has a healthy chest.
Richard.
That's not narrowing it down.
Richard.
It's a line from the movie.
Richard.
Not pertaining to the physical attributes.
Is this Thunderball?
No. You want me to give it to you?
Yes.
You only live twice.
Oh,
She
yes.
falls into the piranha.
Yes.
Our second piranha question. Whisper.
Richard. That's Live and Let Die.
Yes. Naomi.
Naomi.
Oh, you can't forget her.
Oh, Matthew.
Yes?
Spy Who Loved Me?
Yes. This one,
Was that Carolyn Monroe's character?
Yes.
Okay.
And I just want you to know these names are mentioned in the movies. Okay.
I believe you. I don't think you're cheating us.
This one, however, I may have to give you two pronunciations of it, because in the script it's pronounced one way, in the film it's pronounced another one. Jacques Boitier or Jacques Bouvois.
Richard.
Yes.
That's Thunderball.
Yes. Professor Joe Butcher.
I'm going to need a hint on this one.
Joe Butcher, I know this, damn it.
Dankeschön.
Richard. This is the Living Daylights. Not the Living Daylights, it's the other one, License to Kill. Jesus.
Yeah.
Sorry. Got my
It's
Daltons
easy
mixed
to get
up.
confused on the Daltons.
Yes. That's
Professor
Wayne.
Dent.
Oh, that's Richard.
Yes.
That's Dr. No.
Okay. Professor Dr. Metz.
Richard.
Yes.
Isn't that Diamonds Are Forever?
Professor Ladislav Kutz.
Richard, I'm going to go with View to a Kill.
Nope.
Okay. Took a shot.
Oh, sorry, can you say the name again?
Ladislav Kutz. She never learned how to swim.
Matthew, that's Thunderball.
Chang.
Didn't we do Chang?
Oh, I know this one. That's Star Trek 6.
Oh, we already did. Yeah. Yes. Star Trek 6. We did do Chang. Yes. These will be military types. General Medrano.
Matthew,
Yes.
that's Quantum of Solace.
Yes. General Orumov.
Richard,
Yes.
that's Octopussy.
Nope.
Matthew,
Oh,
Yes.
it's
that's Golden.
GoldenEye. Damn it, sorry.
Colonel Heller.
Hint? I would ask for a hint.
American, likes, doesn't like forklifts.
Yeah, I got nothing.
I'm going blank.
License to Kill.
Okay.
This guy only shows up for the pre-title sequence. Colonel Toro.
Richard.
Go ahead.
Colonel Toro, that's Octopussy.
Yes. Mr. Kill.
Richard,
Yes.
that's Die Another Day.
Yes.
One of the stupidest names in one of the stupidest Bond films. Mr. Kill. God.
Mr. Kill.
Oh.
Yes. This one's right on the nose, too. Mr. Bullion.
Well, I guess we should be saying Goldfinger. But I don't recognize the name. Say it's on the nose.
Well, he's played by an actor named Goldie.
Oh. Richard. That's...
Yes.
It's
The
the world is not
are
enough.
confusing, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yes.
the world is not enough. The world is not enough.
The Brosnans just sort of blend in together.
Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff. And let's not get into that.
Yes. Mr. Jones.
Talk about nondescript.
Yeah, well.
These ones that sound very generic are very
Yeah.
difficult.
Yes. There's a reason why this one sounds very generic. That was a hint.
Yeah, I got that it was a hint. I just didn't get the hint. I think you're going to either have to give us another hint or just give it to us.
Dr. No. He's the driver out of Jamaica who Bond beats. I knew that one was going to be tough. Emil Locke.
Richard.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's For Your Eyes Only.
Severine.
Richard.
Yes.
That's No Time to Die.
Nope.
Oh no.
Oh,
It's,
Matthew, that's Skyfall.
Skyfall, yeah. What's Rami Malek's name in No Time to Die?
Safin, I believe.
That's what I was. That's where I. Yeah, I think that's where I was. The Severine thing. That's what I was connecting it with. That's all.
Gobinda.
Yeah, go binda yourself.
Yes. I knew I'd get that reaction. It's that kind of game.
Nada. I got nada.
Binda, I know this name.
Hint?
Yeah.
Yo-yo knives.
Oh, Richard.
Oh, Matthew.
Richard?
That's Octopussy.
The last three are guys with degrees. Dr. Carl Mortimer.
Richard, I'll go with this one again. From A View to a Kill.
Yes. Dr. Tynan.
His last name's not Lannister?
No.
Sorry, like I said, I've been watching Game of Thrones this last week.
Dr. Tynan.
Oh, I did appreciate the impression.
That's
Richard. That's Diamonds Are Forever.
Bitten by the bug. Last one, Dr. Kaufman.
Richard.
Yes.
Is that The World Is Not Enough again?
No.
Okay.
Oh, Matthew, then it's Tomorrow Never Dies.
Correct. All right, let's tally these up. Richard, you have 21, 22.
All right. So at best, at worst, a tie?
Yeah. And Matthew did, despite his protestations, extraordinarily well. 13.
Well, good deal.
Richard,
that was fun.
Richard, you have an amazing grasp.
Well, I once upon a time I could have remembered them all. This is the problem with getting old, is that sometimes it's a little fuzzy.
I could have told you all the names of the Apollo astronauts at one time. Yep. Now I've got Armstrong, and I'm done.
Name the 12 who landed on the moon?
Yeah, no, can't.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Bean.
Well, next time there's a trivia contest at Star Trek, you give me a call, because that's the one I will win.
There you go.
Yes.
All right. Well, we've got the game out of the way. It's time for us to finish up the show, and we're going to finish up the show with an exit question, as we've been doing for the last couple of years. And James, because this was his topic, he suggested a few exit questions that I thought were all appropriate. So you want to tell us which ones you want to go with? And you can go with all of them if you like.
Yeah, we'll go on forever if we do. But I had 3. Yes. Last one first. What's your dream cast for On Her Majesty's Secret Service? If such a thing was possible.
Well, I would replace Lazenby with Timothy Dalton, and keep
up for that.
Keep everything else there. Yeah, he just needed 10 years.
Yes, and not to follow Connery.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine is Connery, Bridget Bardot, and Yul Brynner.
Oh, Yul Brynner would have been interesting.
Yul Brynner's Blofeld will be interesting. The only thing I would change about this movie is, as much as I hate to say it, is I would substitute someone else in for Lazenby. Dalton's a good choice. You could put Daniel Craig in a time machine. I think that would work really well.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he might have been born at that time. I don't know. He said his first Bond movie, was Live and Let Die. Okay. That's out of the way. Want to do another one?
Yeah.
In your opinion, does using "we have all the time in the world" in No Time to Die diminish the Honor Majesty's Secret Service legacy? I'm hearing a lot of online comments that says it was sacrilege.
No,
I don't see it as being sacrilege at all. I think it's an attempt to honor the traditions of the past and show the connection between some of the themes that are going on in the films. The whole Craig series was standalone, but they still connected them.
For one, it's a great thematic callback. For two, it's just a great moment in No Time to Die. And for three, for a series that basically exists to make callbacks to other films in the series, I don't see why anyone would complain about a good callback like that.
Yeah. I thought it resonated particularly well. Especially in a Bond movie where, the biggest complaint I get from women I've dated who don't share my enthusiasm for the Bond series is that the women always die. And in No Time to Die, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
He dies. And he dies.
Giving away the end.
No kidding? Well, did he? We don't know what they're going to do with the next movie. And by the way, this is the other exit question. Where does the Bond series go from No Time to Die? What would you like to see? They can go anywhere now. We're not going to talk about Bond actors because...
Yeah. That's always up in the air.
The odds for that changes every week in the British tabloids. But what would you like to see them do with the Bond series now? Do we want to go continuity conscious like Craig? Do we want to do standalones like the others?
I'm gonna jump in and say there's one thing I want them to do and a related thing I don't want them to do.
Yes.
The thing I would like them to do is to just go back to making... Not go back to, but to just make more James Bond movies. And the thing I don't want them to do is anything to do with an origin story, because we already know everything we need to know. They just need to put James Bond in the situation and let the movie cook. That's...
Yeah,
I don't need another,
I'm with you on that. We don't need to reboot the origin again. We did that with the Craig films, and that was great at the time. But I don't think we need to do that every time we change actors. I don't think that's the way to go. I think this needs to be like Live and Let Die. The next, whoever it is Bond, and we've got a new assignment for him, and we just get introduced to the same characters the way that we usually are, and we proceed from there. So we do a very traditional kind of Bond film with no reference to previous Bond films or storylines or characters or organizations or plots.
Yeah, and another thing I would love to is I've seen chatter online about people saying the next one should be a period film, and I think that would be a mistake. I think that it should remain contemporary. Basically, I would just like them to make another film. There can be one sly look to camera to acknowledge that it's a new actor maybe, but that's all. I don't want anything else to do with an origin story or an explanation about how there's a new actor playing.
The idea of doing it as a period film is an intriguing one, but I don't think it's a successful one if you want to continue the series with the same actor. If you were doing a one-off, then I think you could get away with that. But I don't think we want to come back from the long break that we've had between Bond films with a one-off period piece with an actor who's going to be in the role one time.
Yeah. And I think it'd be cost prohibitive. I mean, they're expensive enough without doing all this period piece involved or all. And then the other thing is that, contemporary audiences, they don't know five years ago.
No, they don't.
why, you know, what do they know about the Cold War? They don't know about World War II.
I mean, you don't want to hear my most controversial opinion?
Sure.
Yes, please.
They should just make another film, and they should let Lashana Lynch be 007. Just carry on with the continuity. Now she's 007. You know, call her James Bond, because, you know, establish that it's a code name, and just move on that she is now James Bond.
I love the fact that they did that in No Time to Die. Because,
and then just, like, have her team up with Ana de Armas and have them, you know, she can be the new, you know, Felix Leiter. And that would be great.
Oh. I kind of like that idea.
Yeah.
And she can emulate her rivals' habits, drink too many martinis, smoke.
Yeah.
Cool.
Come on, that would be a fun movie, don't you think? That'd be a great movie.
I'll see Lashana Lynch in anything.
But not to derail us, but make sure you're watching Day of the Jackal then.
Yeah, I think she's great. Those were all of my exit questions. We did all of them.
All right. And we had answers for all of them, too, so that works as well. It's nice when there's a balance to them. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining us for the Movie of the Month. I'm sorry that we weren't joined by a couple of other Bond enthusiasts, but it just didn't work out for people. I do want to give you a chance, though, to promote anything that you might want people to turn their eyes and ears to. And I have half of the crew today never wants to do that, but I make him do it anyway. James, what have you got that you could promote for us?
The website is Blogging by Cinemalite. Despite the fact that December is always my busiest month, the site's a vast wasteland. There will be posts this week, but frankly, December is looking mighty thin. So, you know, come to the website, Blogging by Cinemalite, and be surprised by new content.
Something will show up, and you'll be delighted by it, I'm sure.
I'll be delighted by it. I don't know if you will be.
Matthew, what are we going to find if we go to any of your sites?
Well, the easiest way to find all of it is to go to my personal portfolio site, which is stretched.ca. Most recently, you'll find links to my recent review of the super fun Netflix action thriller Carry On, as well as contributions to Exclaim magazine's year-end lists. And then primarily I'm also I freelance for a number of places, and so that's the way you can find links to all those places. And then primarily I'm the host of the Awesome Friday podcast, which you can find anywhere that you podcast.
And on my site, as usual, just talking about the films that I've seen in the theater. I'm behind a couple of films, as is typical. Sometimes you just get busy at a certain time of year, but I will catch up. I will warn people. If he steps into the shoes of James Bond, he should wipe his feet very thoroughly, because Aaron Taylor Johnson has stepped in a big pile of crap with Craven the Hunter. Holy criminy, is that movie that bad?
I'm not even interested in seeing it. Why? The director is somebody I really like. He's done great movies. But the reviews have just been stinko.
There's a reason for that.
I'm sure I'll see it when it's out on home video, but I'm actually very curious to see, because, like, all of these Sony Spider-Man villain movies have been pretty bad, so I don't, like, there's no way it can be worse than some of the other ones.
It gives Madam Web a good run for its money.
Wow.
Russell Crowe is the only one who seems to know what was going on in here, and he just is, hamming it up fine.
I mean, I'm interested in seeing it, if only because I've been really enjoying Russell Crowe's, like, his recent I don't give a shit period of acting. A lot of those performances are really fun.
I'm collecting the Australian dollars. Well, I'm sorry. I like J.C. John Doerr.
Well, it's just not good. On the other hand, there's always something out there that is worth seeing, and I just haven't seen it yet. I'm sure I'll catch up. I fell asleep during Moana 2, so I can't tell you anything about it except that it didn't keep me awake.
Yeah, frankly, I did see one movie I was really excited about, and that is Flow.
Well, I've heard good things about that.
If you get a chance to see it, it is amazing, and maybe, and this is saying something for this year, the best animated film of the year. No dialogue, just sound design, and rapturous animation. Just an amazing story. And then I saw Wicked, and that's it.
Well, I got to tell you, this show has been fun. We've got a few things that we should be watching out for. Hopefully everybody will have a happy Christmas and, enjoy your scented perfumes, and make sure that you eat plenty of chicken this holiday season.
Don't use the atomizer.
Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next year.
You've been listening to the Lambcast. If you have an idea for a show or would like to join us on the Lambcast, contact us at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Find us on Facebook, just search for Lambcast, or on X, formerly Twitter, at Lambcast. And you can find us on YouTube as well. The Lamb site can be found at largeassmovieblogs.com. We'd also love it if you would leave a review on iTunes.
Ha 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 ha